Yo, 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 check it out, ladies and gentlemen. I am drawing my light bulb. All right, now I'm drawing one leg and the other leg, kind of giving this figure a worm's eye view. So the middle line of the top of the light bulb is high. Got the center line as well. Got this arm coming out straight. Extending that thigh a little bit. And now I'm drawing the other character right here. That's the top part of the light bulb. Now the bottom cylinder of the light bulb, where the hips and the waist are. In the nose line, shoulders, biceps, forearm, hand. Same with the other side. Getting the placement of the head on this figure. Recognizing that this figure is and should be maybe a little bigger. So I keep extending that arm's width. Now I'm drawing the face. It's a skull, y'all, because it's Skeletor. That's right. This is Heman and Skeletor. I was a big fan of the cartoon when I was younger. I'm extending that arm's width again. Have to foreshorten it to make it believable. Make that hand bigger. Knuckles, now each finger. See, I grew up in a time where cartoons were watched on Saturday morning. And that was the time that you had to clean up the house. I know the younger people know nothing about that because they had Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and all those channels that allowed you to see cartoons anytime you wanted to. Cartoon Network. Not my generation. We had to wait till after school or Saturday before 12, sometime 11 before we could see stuff. And this was one of the shows that I saw after school all the time. Yeah. So now I'm putting in features in my He-Man pose. So I'm trying to make sure that I got that leg right. The hip right. Right, angular. Throw in the muscles. That shoulder right, working on that arm. Rib cage. Shoulder, bicep. Now I'm on the forearm. Changed it up a little bit. Now this scene is not exactly what I saw in the movie, but it is inspired by the movie. What movie? The He-Man movie that came out in 2026. And so this is inspired by, but not a straight rendition of what happened in the movie necessarily. And his head up there. Got his mouth open. And his eyes, ears. And really, this is what it is now. The sword tapers down to a point. The handle right there. Now I'm working on these fingers. Making sure the hand is holding the sword. Got to make sure of that right there. All right, erased and get all blurry, but don't worry about it. I can erase further later. Don't like that hand. Let me try again. And part of it is I'm attempting not to fully erase what I have down there so I can keep adjusting it to my liking. Making that arm a little thicker. By the way, I did have these toys, a few of them, and I did draw from them. And it made so much sense later on when I saw that art mannequins looked more like action figures than those wooden things that they always had. I've had so many of those as an art teacher. I've had whole sets. I've even bought those art mannequins for my students. But as soon as they were able to manufacture action figures with all those different articulations, oh, that was a game changer in my mind. Even though by that time I had already established my own comic book anatomy, it just made so much sense to me that should be an art mannequin. I always use my He-Man action figures as well as others when I would draw. Use G.I. Joe. I even use Star Wars action figures. If I were forward thinking or had a crystal ball and knew that all those 70s and 80s toys would be worth so much money, I would have kept them. Luckily, I did keep my comic books, though. I guess that's why I'm still drawing comic books, because I love them. So, and honestly, no fault of my mother's, but I really believe that my mother probably either discarded them or gave them away, or and she's not to blame. I know that I used to trade Hot Wheel cars and action figures and all that kind of stuff. So there's no telling where my toys are now, from Legos to my He-Man or my Kung Fu Grip $6 million man. My incredible stretchy Hulk. All those things I used to have. Yeah. Reminiscing. But again, He-Man. It made me reminisce. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to give a grade. I normally grade a movie or give it a 1 through 10 and talking privately, but publicly I'm not going to grade it. All I'll say is it reminded me of Flash Gordon. And I guess I'm aging myself, and you can see by my references and the things that I'm saying that I must be an old dude. Yeah, I'm an old dude. Anyway, it reminded me of Flash Gordon. It even had a Queen song in it. So I believe that it was fun action. That's how I'll describe it. It was fun action. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Right, so you got Skeletor, you got He-Man. I'm putting in the details now. I'm looking at my reference to the side. And what's crazy about drawing comic books and drawing characters, even though I have a long relationship, as I've indicated, with these characters, I really don't know the details like that, and I have to look at a reference to even know what's what. So I made that skull real square and angled, and that was so that I could better position things. Now I'm trying to make sure there's a certain perspective and make it as right as I can in this quick time. When I do these drawings for YouTube, honestly, I am attempting to do this as fast as I can, just like I would at a convention. I'm not trying to necessarily concentrate on the, well, I can't say that. I am trying to make sure that I'm doing my best work. I'm just trying to do it at a faster pace. I'll say that. I'm doing my best work at a faster pace. That's what I'm doing. As I think about it now, I actually believe that he has claws at the end of his fingers, but I don't know if I did that. We'll have to see as we get closer and closer to the end. Getting all the details. I'm sure I'm looking right now at my reference to see what needs to happen. Okay, put a little energy around the sword. I'm doing that to give this picture a little more energy and background. Something I really appreciate about Jim Lee and a lot of older comic book artists, they seem to be more aware of things like backgrounds and perspective. And I will say newer artists are too. I'm not necessarily a fan of computer art. Even my own, I've attempted to use the computer to create some stuff, but there are artists who have emerged who work on the computer, and you look at it and you're like, wow, that is crazy. And I'm actually finding ways to render and get the look that I want. Right now, it still looks computer. It is computer, but it doesn't feel like what I get when I draw on paper. So if I could get that, that would be sure enough cool. Put it in the shadows. Now it's time to ink. I'm continuing to change up things as I ink. The shadows already established. Costume. I'm sure Skeletor will not be happy that his hood is off. Honestly, I don't think his hood was off the whole movie. So that's why I say this is inspired by. This is not a direct copy of what happened in the movie. As in all my drawings, I am doing the outline right now. Oh, I did put the claws on the hands. Yes. So what I decided to do was outline the shadows. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. I guess I'm doing it. I take this time to say like, subscribe, follow, friend, connect, kick it with me. Most of all, get Mctivated. You want a commission done? Just hit me up. As a motivational speaker, art educator, and educator period, I always want to inspire and have people see what I'm doing and understand this comes from a position of motivation. Hopefully you are motivated and captivated by what I'm doing, and it helps you in your life in some way. Putting the claws on the hands. Now I'm going in for the features. This is the type of details you want to take your time with. And I'm going slow, even though it's on time lapse. It still seems slow, right? I had to take my time on that part right there. The head and the hands, those are the most expressive parts of, in this case, I'll say a humanoid. Anything with human-like qualities. All right. Sticking your chest out. I see somebody just text me. Let me see, y'all. That's the wifey. Gotta make sure I check that. Could be a honey-do list on it, unfortunately. So now I am going through and I am tracing the outline of the shadows. This is a very much stylized anatomy. It's not real anatomy. It's compiled from some of my favorites. I won't name them all, but my major influences early on, I'll say in the 80s, it was George Perez and John Byrne. Then I'll say in the 90s, it was image creators, primarily Jim Lee, and everybody at the homage school. They were ridiculous. They fell into that Wildstorm way of creating comics and drawing that to me was just so visually powerful. I love that style. One thing that I have done, and I probably should have done before I got to this point, like before you ink anything, after you draw, even while you're drawing something, you should either look at it in a mirror or look at it turned around up to the light, where you're looking through the paper to see the image on the other side of the paper. What that does is give you fresh eyes, and you can identify mistakes a whole lot easier when you do things like that. Got that hair, that wavy, well, not wavy, it's kind of straight blonde hair, actually. Now I'm working on the face, taking my time, wanting it to look good, be handsome. A handsome man with his mouth open, That's what I am trying to accomplish. Once again, this scene was inspired by, but not completely copied from, the movie Masters of the Universe. Yeah. It's looking good, Ron Mac. I like what you're doing. So I basically got all of the figure work done in terms of outlines. Now I am doing the lightning. And if I decide to color this piece, then I don't know what I was going to say. I had a senior moment. I don't know, man. Oh, wow. A lot of times I just get lost looking at myself draw, and I think that's what I'm doing now.
I'm having trouble understanding right now.
Oh, no.
Let's try a little later.
Stop. I did not call you. That's how you know that these electronic devices are listening. And now with the advent of AI, they're not only listening, but interpreting and communicating back with you. All kind of things. Putting a little directional stuff on it. Now that I got the outlines, I am erasing everything so that now all I have to do is figure out how I'm going to fill in the blacks and how am I going to do any feathering or anything like that. So that hand right there is the hand holding the pen. So it looks as if I decided not necessarily to use any method doing all my feathering work, but I'm just following where I have already put my outline for the shadows. This to me gives it that clean look and very much part of what I saw in the early Wildstorm. But I would even say that there are artists that still draw in this style. It's just so dynamic to me with the hatching and the cross hatching and things like that. And the fact that you're willing to do that is beautiful. I know you're saying, but I didn't do anything. If you're willing to do all this hatching stuff, and that's really what I don't like about the computer art. It's a lot of line work, and I love line work. I love J. Scott Campbell, for instance. But I also can see in his pieces inking, feathering, cross-hatching. And his style is more lettering than anything else. As a matter of fact, I believe his sketchbooks were called Lineology, which I thought was real cool and accurate as to how his career has moved and how I valued what everybody had done. All right, getting this boot done. Now I'm working on Skeletor. Get that shoulder popping. In my mind, this gives it a sheening quality, a rendered quality. I could fill it in with black and feather out of it. That's the Dave Finch way of drawing, and I've said I was going to try that. In one of the comics that I personally created, I had my version of what I thought different artists would do with my character. I had a John Byrne-esque drawing of my character. I had a Bart Sears-esque version of my character. I think I did a Jack Kirby, a Jim Lee, of course, a Travis Charest-esque version as well. Just all the artists that I really gleaned for or had very distinctive styles. I had Casada on there, and I really liked that. I learned so much by doing that exercise. It was fully my character, fully my pose, but I attempted to duplicate their anatomy or duplicate their personal tropes and style. And man, you know, the line weight, all of us as artists have line, blacked in spaces. We have that to work with, and what makes us different. And my professor in college said, what makes artists different is the way they see light. And so, for instance, if I go back to Dave Finch, his light is always going to be a heavy, hard light in terms of deep black shadow, right? But a Jim Lee and a Jim Lee is going to see it a little differently and render it differently. The way that John Byrne renders light is different. J. Scott Campbell, man, he simplifies. By simple, I do not mean easy. He simplifies the form and makes what I will consider such beautiful pieces. And it's always amazing to me to see how other artists glean from each other. Yeah. And what things and characteristics I could notice as I looked at one artist and see the influence that has happened in that artist's work. Now, artist's work. Yeah, I think that's right. I'm a school teacher, but I taught art, but I did teach all subjects as well, so I can't use that excuse anymore. When I just taught art, though, I would always say, you can't blame me for that. I'm an art teacher. But I actually teach all subjects now, so. I teach life, man. I teach life. Oh, man, got the rendering down. Is it time? It is time. Time for the part where the magic in my mind happens, which is the calligraphy contour, where the line has varied width as it moves around the figure, and that varied line brings weight and interest. In my mind, this is something that I really appreciate. I credit John Byrne for being the one who introduced it to me. It's funny how I see those characteristics in other people's artwork, but since maybe I was not interested in their art at first or didn't appreciate it at first, I didn't really see it. So I can recognize that Jack Kirby did the same thing. His line width varied, but I never appreciated it until I saw John Byrne do it. And then I was like, oh man, this is the greatest thing ever. Treating the hair like a solid. Oh, I'm getting that. Making sure the hand is right on that sword. Now I'm down to Skeletor. And the contour also provides a separation. One thing that I recognize and hope people recognize as they draw is that comic books have their own language. They are their own medium. Just because there are no hard lines like this in nature doesn't mean you can't have hard lines. So recognizing that what you're doing is a facsimile, it's not the real thing, puts you right here. Heman, I have the power.
Leron McAdoo found joy in drawing superheroes, but he was an illiterate third grader. So suddenly his mother said she would not buy another comic book until he could read them. McAdoo rose above being afraid of words to getting paid for words. Now he uses words to get people Mctivated about their own superpower. He drew strength from drawing. This is Comicbook Bold. To see his comic commissions and comic art, go to Pinterest.com at that hip hop and select Leron McAdoo art.